And it's now time for a motion to adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson, JP.
And good afternoon, Brother Dawn.
Good day, sir. Good day. Nice to see you back in the studio.
Yeah, and
yes.
An afternoon to Brother Dwayne, who is working hard. He can't join us today, but he's working hard.
Yeah, he is.
And good afternoon, most of all, to the people of Bermuda. We want to start off today, I don't want to say a sad note, but a note of gratitude for the life and the work of Mr. Arthur Hudson, JP. Mr. Hudson, as many of you know, passed away a few days ago. And this is a man that gave his life literally to the people of Bermuda via the legal system, via education, and also via politics. But most importantly, he gave his life to his family. As some would know, he comes from down Crow Hill area. So from Shelley Bay to Bayless Bay, the whole family. So we just want to give a note of condolences to his family, his multiple families, his biological family, his legal family, his political family, his all other people that he touched. So I'm sure we're going to have a show dedicated to him coming in the near future. Brother Dawn?
Yes, sir.
So today we are going to be talking with some of our family from the Bahamas. As many people would know, sometimes people often get things confused. Bahamas, Bermuda, Barbados, Bermuda. 4 islands start with B. And, it's understandable, right? But what a lot of people, whether they be in Bahamas or Bermuda, don't understand or haven't been told, because our education system was written by those who didn't want us to know, is that there's a strong historical connection between the Bahamas and Bermuda. So today we are going to be speaking with some folks about the history of Bahamas and the history of the connection between Bahamas and the Bermuda. And then we'll be speaking about some upcoming celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the independence of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So we have a guest on the line. Good afternoon, guest. How are you?
Good afternoon. I am pretty good. Thank you very much for having me. Just to confirm, you guys are able to hear me clearly?
Can hear you loud and clear, Mr. Hannah. How art thou?
I am doing well, Brother Famous. I am doing well. I trust that you're doing likewise, and hello to your co-host as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Good day.
So on the line, introduce yourself, Mr. Hannah. You could introduce yourself better than I have a clue.
Yes, good afternoon to Bermuda and the listening public around the globe. My name is Marvin Hanna, and I'm an attorney currently living in Bermuda. I've been here for, I want to say the last 7 years, but I've been visiting for around 15 to 16 years. I am married to a lovely Bermudan lady by the name of Crystal Payne Hanna. And I'm just delighted and thrilled that you guys have us on, just to give us a bit of time just to share some of the cultural items that we share both in Bahamas and Bermuda.
Okay, thank you for that. So let me ask you this. Let's start off with easy question. Tell us a little bit about the history of the Bahamas.
Oh, well, thank you. The Bahamas is an archipelago comprising of about 700 islands and keys, located just south of the U.S. and just north of the rest of the Caribbean. We have a population of almost about 400,000 persons, so we're slightly bigger than you guys here in Bermuda. Now, as far as the history of the Bahamas and the connection, it actually goes back a few hundred years, and it's something that my wife and I often joke about. So the famous, I'm sure you're aware, in the middle of the 1600s, I think it's 1647, if I'm not mistaken, there were a group of resident Bermudans that were hoping to escape religious persecution and find themselves in a new world where they can practice their faith. So, led by Captain William Sale, I believe at that point he would have been the governor of Bermuda on 2 occasions prior to that. Him and 70 of his compatriots loaded up on a boat and left Bermuda en route to what I imagine was the Americas. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you view it, during their journey they encountered a storm, and the ship that they were sailing on ran into rocks in an area which we in the Bahamas call the Devil's Backbone, which is just north of Spanish Wells or Harbor Island, as most folks are aware. So they landed in an island that's now called Eleuthera, and there they actually established one of the first known settlements in the Bahamas that was settled by non-indigenous Indian persons. So the history of Bermuda and the Bahamas goes all the way back to the mid-1600s. And then again, as historians in Bermuda are aware, during the 1656 slave uprising in Bermuda, which wasn't a success by any measure, a group of then freed slaves were all packed up on a boat and sent to the Bahamas. So the Bahamas was, for a long time now, a settling place for Bermudans seeking refuge for either religious reasons or freedom reasons. Now, if I can just... Brother Famous, you still there?
And Dr. Tinker's on as well.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Tinker, now that you're on, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to my short narrative that I just gave.
Yes, I
Good afternoon, Dr. Tinker.
Yes.
How are you?
Yes, good afternoon very much. I'm sorry I'm tardy.
We're Caribbean people. That's how we rule.
No. I'm actually running in from a meeting with the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister.
Oh, okay.
I'm just running in here. I didn't get all of the conversation, all of the discussion that was made. Maybe what I can say very earlier was that I do agree that, yes, there was more than one, actually, deportations of people of color that were banished to the Bahamas. There was more than one. There were maybe about 5, quite frankly.
5 sets of
Five sets of people. The first one came in on the ship called the what's it called again? The Blessing. But then there were several others that came over. The names, unfortunately, are obscured because at that time they did not register names per se of those people. They didn't want to notarize them. And so they just lumped them on the ship and simply send them in.
So
banish them here.
So say they were deported, quote unquote, from Bermuda, banished from Bermuda and sent to Bahamas.
Yes, that is correct. The very first one basically was focused on an allegation that there was a plot to really take over people of African color. And as such, what basically happened is they simply rounded up not only the suspected culprits, but they also, could I say, urged?
Strongly suggested.
Yes, right. Many of those entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, they were literally banned because they said that they were aiding and abetting of those particular persons.
And what time frame was this?
This would have been like about 1616, give or take, thereabout.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say 1656 was the first uprising.
Okay.
You see, because we haven't in our history books, or at least when I went to school and Brother Dawn went to school, they never taught us that we actually had slave uprisings in Bermuda. So we were taught that slavery was benign. Slavery was so nice that the blacks and whites got along so good that no one wanted to leave her.
That's not really so, because even simultaneous with the blacks that were enslaved on the islands, there were also Native Americans that were also enslaved as well.
Yes. So
and they indicated those as being some of their slaves.
Yes, they were. They were, if my memory serves me correctly, they were political prisoners of war from King Philip's War up in the northeast section of the United States. They were taken from, let's say, Connecticut.
Yes.
In that area. In Bermuda, we would call them Pequots.
The Pequot, that is correct, yes.
So, sorry to cut you off, Dr. Tinka, but I just thought, I just wanted to insert something that I find as a very interesting fact that I've not seen reflected in a lot of history books. During that initial voyage with Captain Sale and his 70 compatriots, when they were searching for freedom, and they landed in Eleuthera and settled in what's now known as Preacher's Cave, they found, as you well know, and anybody that's familiar with Eleuthera, that there were a number of food shortages. So Captain Sale, after he landed in Eleuthera, actually sailed to the Americas for help, got a bunch of supplies from the Massachusetts Bay Company, and then when he got back to the Bahamas, he thanked them by sending a shipment of Brazilita wood, and the proceeds from the sale of that wood was actually used to purchase land for what is now known as Harvard University.
That is very correct. May I also add that there was more than one ship that actually was sailing to the Bahamas. There were actually two ships. One of the ships, for some reason, we don't have any recorded of where that other ship went. They both came into the Bahama waters, but then they separated. There was a dispute, and they separated. One set went another way that we have no idea where they went, but we know the other one with William Sale and his persons that traveled with him went to Eleuthera, North Eleuthera. And they set up their meetings in an area called Preacher's Cave, and they just simply went off from there.
So prior to those African people being deported to the Bahamas, were there African enslaved persons in Bahamas before that?
Very much so, yes. Yes, very much so. There was always slavery from very, very early. In fact, during the time of Columbus in the 1500s, they brought in African laborers to actually work on their various plantations. So they were the first ones that actually came in, as far as we know from the accounts.
So I know Bahamas has like 700 islands. So the Africans that were deported, banished, encouraged to leave from Bermuda, which islands did they predominantly settle on?
They went specifically to the island called Eleuthera. That's the only island that they went to. Now, whether they dispersed from there, we simply don't know, because there are no records of it. When I was in Bermuda a couple of years ago, I'm doing research in the archives, I simply could not find any information of that whatsoever. And I found that very strange, quite frankly.
Well,
but I recognize that it was not significant to immortalize people of black color, I guess.
Well, like I said, our as with world history, Bermuda history has been extremely sanitized, and it's only in the last 10 to 15 years that us as Bermudians, specifically black and Portuguese Bermudians, have been getting to learn more about our history, how we reached her, because we were all told, Bermuda was founded by Sir George Somers. He actually got shipwrecked her. That's how he got her.
That is correct, yes.
And he was lucky that there was an island close by us. He would have been just erased from history. But the point I'm getting at is that it's important to have these conversations, because what little you can find in the archives is still more than we have been told as people in this country, and it's basically robbed us of who we are collectively, right? Not everybody's going to have the same lineage, but this is the collective nature of who we are as Bermudians and who you all are as Bahamians. And one of the things that I found interesting was that when you all had Hurricane Dorian, there was this lady who lived in Abaco. Abaco is where it got hit, right?
Yep.
Yes, that is correct. One of the islands.
Caucasian person of European descent, I'll put it that way. And when she was talking, I was like, this woman sounds like somebody from Bermuda. And the accents were so similar. Like.
Yes. And if I could interject, I was just speaking with my wife today because I'm supposed to do a lecture there in a few months. And I wanted to find somebody to record exactly that accent, because these are the same people. Very same people that came down. The accent still exists today.
Yeah, my wife often makes the joke that I'm just a Bermudian that took a few hundred years to get back home.
One of the principal features is that they drop their H's. So if you say Harbor Island, is Harbor Island. The H is just dropped. But I just want to make a comment quickly, if I may, and I hope it's not insensitive. But I was very surprised as I was doing research there of the importation of the Portuguese. And then I realized that it was similar to what happened in Brazil. It was a move, apparently, to whiten the population because there were too many blacks that were coming in, and they were expanding a bit too rapidly. So we needed to bring in persons of lighter color to lighten up your population. So this was simultaneous with bringing in those people that had certain agricultural skills.
Yeah, and this is again goes back to some of the history that we weren't taught in school. I want to say, 4 years ago we celebrated the Portuguese being here for 175 years. Okay. And the thing is, the first set of persons, they were actually from Madeira. It's an island off of the coast. It's actually closer to Africa than it is to Portugal. And one of the things that we have learned is that post-emancipation, you had the slaves, the persons who were enslaved that were literally doing the work for free, and post-emancipation, and then you had the 4 or 8 years of quote-unquote apprenticeship. And after that, it's like, well, we're not doing this for free anymore. Like, you got to pay us.
Yeah.
Or we don't even want to work for you. We're going to do for ourselves. So that also was one of the impetus of bringing in persons from Madeira, because they could say, okay, well, there's an agrarian society, agrarian economy. We have to grow food. We have to do this. We have to do the other. So let's get folks from Madeira, and they came on a ship that was called the Golden Rule, ironically, right? So, and this is part of our Bermudian history, the entire picture that had not been taught to us until recently. And the Portuguese are, as a essential part of our society, right? They are as Bermudian as the rest of us, in regard, regardless of what the original intent was of bringing them. I'm sure it has a lot to do with what you mentioned as well, but part of it was that black people back then were like, no, we're not doing this for free no more.
Right.
Not to say the Portuguese did it for free, but they were able to. The colonial Europeans back then were able to control those persons a lot more than they was able to control black people, because
right.
at one point they were told only men could come, and the families had to stay exactly. in the Azores. We're gonna go to a break and then we'll come right back.
Okay.
Yes, and we're back.
Yes. Can I make a quick comment, please?
Yes, please.
And it's really right on the heel of the comments that were made with regards to the importation of the Portuguese. This is very similar to what happens in the region down south, in the Caribbean, where you had large amounts of Chinese and East Indians that were brought in as literally laborers, primarily because when the slaves were freed, they moved out of the plantations in large numbers.
Yeah, and they came as what quote unquote indentured servants, right?
That is exactly so.
And they were, to some extent conned into things, right? They were told you got to work how many, I'm just giving an example. You have to work X amount of years to pay off your indentureship, like.
Exactly. Yeah. What was very similar in the entire United States, quite frankly, except these are mostly of people of European stock.
So, excuse me, Mr. Famous, cognizant of the time, I know that you have a very, very tight schedule. I just wanted to jump forward in the discussion a few hundred years, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a conversation. This is just the opening innings. We're going to be back another time for another run.
Sounds good. And make sure I don't miss out any salient points or any important information that's worth sharing. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on what I describe as the Caribbean Age of Enlightenment, which took place in the late 1940s at the University of London, where we had persons, renowned leaders in the Caribbean, all studying at the same time. I'm talking Errol Barrow from Bermuda, Mrs. Eugenia Charles from Dominica, Michael Manley of Jamaica, Miss Lois Brown of Bermuda, and then the Celindan Pinlan of the Bahamas. The reason why I call it the Age of Enlightenment, because all of these leaders-to-be were not only studying law, but they were there, and I'm only imagining that they were dreaming up a way to make sure that their people's social, economic, and political freedom were held. So I just wanted Dr. Tinker to comment on that connection if he wanted to.
Yes, I can. And what I'd like to comment to say that there was a measure of enlightenment that were happening, at least in the Bahamas, long before those guys went to school. There were contracts, agricultural contracts, all over, where the Bahamians went to work on these contracts, and they picked up progressive ideologies, and they brought it home. And they recognized that we don't need really to be subservient to the white people. So that the activism started very, very, very much earlier, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yes, there were a number of persons that went into law, quite frankly, and were rubbing shoulders with each other. And a lot of them really were obviously influenced by Haile Selassie during the very same time. And then there was Jomo Kenyatta and several others from Africa. And these were the guys that were planting the seed of nationalism, quite frankly, in their heads, and they brought them home, and that's where the movement spread even more rapidly.
Yeah, and that paved the way in 1953 to the Bahamas is forming our PLP, or the Progressive Liberal Party, which then was the first political party in the Bahamas. And as most Bermudians are aware, 10 years later, the Progressive Labour Party became one of the first political parties in Bermuda.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, and both parties have similar ideals, workers' rights, voters' rights, social and political upliftment, and just making sure that the working class people had a voice. And ironically, in the Bahamas, we had what's called the United Bahamian Party, or the UBP, and in Bermuda,
yes,
as you are aware, you had the United Bermuda Party. So the similarities just make me giggle sometimes because they are so similar. And I want to say that it's my understanding that the then leader of the Bahamas, the late Sir Lyndon Oscar Penland, and the then leader of Bermuda, Dame Lois Brown, always kept very, very close ties. And I believe, and Dr. Tinker, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but after the PLP won the election, the PLP sent a delegation down to Bermuda to assist with the Bermuda PL Party, just in efforts of trying to grow membership, how to set up branches, how to run campaigns, and the like.
That is correct. That is very correct. I plan to highlight that in the lecture that's going to upcoming. But that is so correct because, believe it or not, it was really the UBP from the Bermuda that came, the whole contingency came to the Bahamas to sit in Parliament and to learn what they were doing. They were not necessarily doing to enfranchise black people. They were looking to consolidate their entrenchment as the oligarchy. But that's another story that I'm going to speak to as we get to it.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you, or not just on behalf of motion to adjourn, but Bermuda on the whole, because, as I said, this is a lot of the history that we have never been told.
Yes.
And as we know, when an elder dies, unless that story has been written down, the story is passed with them. So I want to thank you. And as I said, in cricket terms, this is just the opening innings. We're going to have you back, consistently over the next few months to educate us about the connections between Bermuda and the Bahamas.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And just lastly, just wanted to put it out there in public that the Bahamas, we gained our independence in 1973, and I believe Dame Lois Brown Evans carried a delegation down to the Bahamas to celebrate with her friend Sir Lyndon Oscar Penland. So just wanted to put that out before we ended our segment.
All right. Well, thank you both, gentlemen, and we'll be in touch. We'll go to break, and then we'll come back with some more Bahamians.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
And please give P.M. Davis our fondest regards, and we'll talk to him soon.
We'll certainly do that.
And make sure Gildas is still open, please.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you all for having us. We'll make way for the remaining guests for the Bahamas, who will share some information on the upcoming independence celebration. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
As they say, all the way.
I like it.
There is no other way.
Yes.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Have a good one.
And good afternoon. Welcome back to Motion to Adjourn. Good afternoon, Ms. Tucker. Mrs. Tucker, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you can introduce yourself better than I can. Tell us.
Okay. Charmaine Tucker, married to St. Clair Sean Tucker, otherwise known as the Voice of Summer. I've been here for 24 years, July 2019.
3/4 of your life?
That's right. It feels like all my life, Chris, all my life. So a Bahamian, born and bred. but living in Bermuda. And I'm the president of the Bahamian Association in Bermuda.
So for today's call, we'll call you Madam President.
Oh, man, don't do that.
Good afternoon, Madam President. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and enjoying the show so far. And thank you again. Like Marvin said, thank you for having us, Bahamians in Bermuda, just to speak about our connection. Especially on our road to 50. This we are celebrating, as you're aware, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary, 50th year of being independent. And you know, like the Bahamians, they do it up real big. So we wanted to share that with Bermuda in terms of our connection, and to tell them about what we have in store in the coming months.
Okay, so tell us firstly about the Bahamas Association of Bermuda.
Okay, so the Bahamas Association of Bermuda was more or less formalized in 2019. It was really established as under temporary charitable status in order to receive funds and donations after Hurricane Dorian. You will recall the Category 5 storm that impacted our islands of Abaco and Eleuthera, and the outpouring of love of the government of Bermuda, the people of Bermuda, and it was under the direction of the then Minister Keynes. And so we established or formalized it into an association so that we would be able to, deal with those goods. The first president of the Bahamian Association was Ron Pinder, and the executive committee was Angie Falkerson and Simone Smith-Bean, as well as Tanya Redmond and Kate Trott. So all of these persons being living and working in Bermuda, married to Bermudians. Angie Farquharson actually is a Bermudian married to a Bahamian. And so, the association, we roughly have about 30 Bahamians living here in Bermuda, with various vocations, lawyers, nurses, accountants, bankers, and the majority of whom are either married to a Bermudian. We come here, we keep it sweet. We wanted, some of us moved here, and then we have some Bermudians and Bahamians that are living in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got caught in the Bermuda Triangle.
You see that?
But geographically,
go ahead.
Part of the Bermuda Triangle stretches from Bermuda south to Puerto Rico and then north to the Bahamas, right? So
yes.
It could have very well been called the Bahamas Triangle, but they decided to give us the notoriety.
Yeah, and there is and has always been that connection as well in terms of when we go to school. The Bahamians and Bermudians always hang together, whether it's in Canada. When I say that I live in Bermuda, there are always people that have schooled with someone from Bermuda, either in Canada, in London. We seem to always hang out or be in the same spaces.
And we have another special lady on the line. Before we transition, why do you think it is that Bermudians and Bahamians gel so close together when they get in overseas universities?
I think it's probably the connection that Dr. Tinker and Marvin spoke about earlier. I remember meeting Sean in when I was in London in law school, and the first thing I
Sean
said,
as in St. Clair.
Sean Tucker, yes,
okay,
my husband.
All right. Gotta put in context now.
Yes. When I met my husband, Sean, in London, and he said that he was from Bermuda, and I said to him, I was like, I didn't know that black people lived in Bermuda. You know, in terms of when you hear Bermuda shorts, and I was like, you don't live in Bermuda. And he spoke like how he spoke. I said to him, he sounded like someone from Eleuthera. And at that time, I did not know of the connection, you know, about the Bermudians coming down to and really settling in Eleuthera. So even then, I could have made the connection. So I believe it's that we are just naturally connected because of you know, our close knit. Coming together from the very beginning.
Let's
we can sense that.
We could encapsulate this in the DNA.
Yes.
Okay. Did you all do like an Ancestry.com test before you got married or anything?
No, we didn't do that.
Okay.
We didn't do that.
So we have someone else on the line. Would you like to introduce this other lady?
Well, I'm sure she can introduce herself. That's Siobhan Hollis.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Ms. Hollis. How are you?
I am great. I'm actually out of Bermuda. I'm in the Bahamas. What next best place to be?
You're in the other third of the triangle.
Where God lives.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for having us, first of all, for hearing, and thank you, Bermuda, from listening to us near and far. My name is Siobhan Hollis, as Charmaine would have alluded to. I am the chair for the 50th Bahamas Independence Celebration. And I am about to speak about the upcoming events that we will be having in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So to the listening audience, we will, like we say in the Bahamas, go big or go home. So I am appealing to everyone. Be there. Just be there. Wherever we are having something, just make it a point to attend. So from June the 29th, that's Thursday, 2023, we will be having a historical lecture series by the renowned historian who was on a few minutes ago, and author Dr. Keith Finker. Friday, June the 30th, 2023, we will then introduce our culture. So we are having a cultural cocktail at a location to be announced soon. On Saturday, this is our 50th Golden Jubilee Gala Ball. So we will be honoring a few Bahamians that have made tremendous contribution to not only the Bahamian community in Bermuda, but Bermuda itself. And then we wrap up on July 2nd, that Sunday, obviously, known as a Christian nation. We will be closing off at church service, 10 a.m. church service at the Holy Trinity Church in Hamilton, Bermuda, followed by a march throughout Hamilton. And I must say, Bermuda, we will be bringing our junk canoe, and we will have your gombe. So we're going to turn it up in Bermuda. Get ready, get ready, get ready.
Okay, and do you all have like a Facebook page or Instagram or something? Because, you know, most people nowadays get the information off of social media versus newspaper or something like that.
Sure.
Or like, do you have like a flyer made up so that could get distributed?
Yes, we do. We're in the process of making up a few other flyers as we go. We do have the Bahamian Association in Bermuda Facebook page, of which was started during the Hurricane Dorian. So we're going to be using that, updating that. We ask persons, if you want to find out what's going on, to check that out. Also, we will put information in the newspaper. So we are just in the planning phase, but as time goes by, you would see more information out there through our social media. We're going to create a temporary website. We do have a lot of Bahamians who've never been to Bermuda and would love to come and enjoy the festivities and celebration, as well as make it a vacation. They've heard so much about Bermuda. So I am very excited, I must say. And so are all the Bermudians and Bahamians in Bermuda.
Are they coming on Western there?
Yeah,
Pardon?
don't go there. Don't go there, Chris. Chris.
So get ready.
There's no. I mean, unfortunately, we've lost American Airlines not flying her, so
Yes.
from Miami. So I'm thinking of short ways.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a chartered flight that'll come to bring everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yes, if we have to bring Bahamas here, we'll bring Bahamas here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So there are really big names here. Chris, with individuals that have been in Bermuda for a very long time. Bahamians that have been here. Dr. Bert McPhee that has been here for a long time. Lenora Carey, and Ann Bassett, the wife of the artist Robert Bassett. You know,
yes.
those are names. When I came in 1999. I said I was coming to Bermuda to live. Those were the first names that were really told to me, that there are Bahamians that are living here. And over the years, we've really made sure that we stayed connected with the Bahamians here in Bermuda. Mm-hmm. We've always gotten together to socialize, to get together, to eat, of course. People that are bringing conch, of course, because you don't have conch here as much. You can't go and dive conch like in the Bahamas. And conch is something that we eat all the time. So we're always having get-togethers with our Bahamians living here in Bermuda.
I never get there on WhatsApp. What's going on?
Listen, we're going to add you.
I would also like to chime in to our West Indian counterparts. I know from me coming there in 2001, I came after Charmaine, and our West Indian as well, who lives in Bermuda, we would have, attended different events that they would have had as well. So I'm inviting you as well, the West Indian Association, Barbadian Association, Jamaican, everyone, Filipino, just come out and enjoy in our 50th Golden Jubilee Independence celebration.
So just for clarity, thank you for that, Miss Hollis. So, Miss Hollis, a quick question. You got the answer. That Hollis is Bermuda Hollis or Bahamian Hollis?
Well, this is Bermuda Hollis. So I am married to Keith Hollis. Okay. The contractor Keith Hollis. From Bailey's Bay area, I think.
Well, there's any place the Hollis has come from.
That's right.
Ain't no bay like what? Ain't no breeze like, what's it brother doing?
Bermuda breeze?
No, sea breeze. That's Bailey's Bay, red and white.
Yes.
So y'all, you got caught in the triangle as well?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
All right.
I certainly did.
So Dr. Bert McPhee, the gentleman that is a certain age but looks like 50 years younger than that age, is from Bahamas.
Yes,
he's from Bahamas. I said to him, I believe that in those days they didn't they used to write down the dates that people were born, and then they would send it on the mailboat. I think he has got mixed up because he definitely doesn't look with the age he says he is. So he's Bahamian. Yes, he's Bahamian, also married to a Bermudian.
Yes, he was married to Dr. Gloria McPhee, I think.
That's correct.
Yes, a wonderful lady who I got to meet. Very beautiful person inside and out.
One of our first women politicians.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. If I can add too, Dr. McPhee is descended from an island called Exuma. And I know we mentioned Eleuthera, so my descendants would be Eleuthera as well. Just like in Bermuda, where you have this people from Somerset and Georges, etc. We have certain surnames from certain parts of the Bahamas.
So we have before we wrap up, which island in the Bahamas are you from, Mrs. Tucker?
My parents are from Ragged Island.
That's the same place as Miss Carey?
No, Smith Bean.
Her
people
right.
are from Ragged Island as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Ragged Island, and my father was from Eleuthera. And so
Eleuthera, the place where Bermudians came from.
Bermudians came from, yeah. So that's where my father was from. Miss Carey is from Inagua. Her family is from Inagua. And then we have some people, like for instance, Tanya Redmond, who's also here. She was a dean. She was from Long Island. So we have people from all over, the different islands that are here. And I think you had said someone who was speaking, who was more fair-skinned. She's from Spanish West. Was she a Bahamian that you had met?
No. This was a lady. This was a lady during the. I don't know her name, but this was during the hurricane, and she was like, "Oh, my old house is going." And I was like, "Sounds like a Bermudian." I didn't catch her name, but she was of European descent. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have quite a number of Bahamians that are here that are from various islands, and I believe that's going to be part of the experience as well. We're going to have, different things from the different islands of the Bahamas.
Okay. All right. Well, we have to wrap up this, as I told the doctor and the lawyer earlier. They ain't charging me for the time, was they? That this is just the first innings, right?
Yeah.
I know cricket. Is cricket big in Bahamas?
It's not as big, but we do have an oval. We do have it there, but it's normally with old people. That's what I told Sean when I met him.
Okay. All right. No wonder he didn't move down there.
Cricket, no, no cricket. We don't have no team.
All right. So this is just the first openings, and every so often between now and July, we'll have you all back to give updates on the happenings and updates on more of the history between Bermuda and Bahamas.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
And stay
care.
tuned, Bermuda. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. All the way.
PLP. Hey, PLP all the way. That's what they say there. All right.
You said it, not me.
Take care.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Well, Bermuda, we got to close up once again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your WhatsApps. Thank you for your love. Next month, we'll make 3 years that we've
Already.
3 years that we've been here every Thursday. Maybe missed maybe a total of 5 altogether.
That's it for 3 years. That's good.
Yeah, that's a
Good
pretty,
innings.
That's a pretty good absentee rate. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
And as we develop, we'll be bringing more informative stuff. Have a little, once in a while we have a little. Might have Vic up here again.
Yeah, boxing match.
Or somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. But more importantly, we just want to keep informing you because, as we said earlier, there are things that we weren't taught about our history as Bermudians, whether we're black, white, Portuguese, or other. We weren't taught these things, and it's important for us to know these things. So thank you. And on behalf of Dwayne, who has to work, next week we'll be having Khalid Wasi on the radio and also possibly the education minister. So thank you once again.
And you have been listening to Motion to Adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson, JP.